Hi, it's Polly here with Mr. Snoots, who's quite excited, because he just is. We got introduced to a game called OMOG. One man, one gun. And it's beautiful. Now, you can find this on the OMOG face page on Facebook. One man, one gun. Just look it up. When you go into files, here are all the files. And it will go over several cool variants. But OMOG is the game of playing with toy soldiers. It's designed to go with those kind of cheap-ass plastic soldiers that you had as a kid. Be it Brtitains or Airfix boxes or the kind of colourful ones that you buy in toy stores. Now the initial rules were OMOG, one man, one gun, and they are designed for kind of American Civil War, Franco-Prussian War things, because they were pretty common. In America they were pretty common toy soldier sets, I gather. Slightly different for we in the civilized world, but that's what you guys had. I assure you, our ones were always Deutsche Afrika Korps and boxes of Australian infantry. But 54mm is kind of what this is aimed at. But rather charmingly, the idea is that this isn't a game about terrain and costly equipment. I said it's about toy soldiers. So you'll need like a box of toy soldiers. It tells you how to make the terrain out of just the stuff that's lying around the room. How to just put a book down partly opened, standing up, as an A-frame. That's your houses. You can make a village out of a bunch of little hardcover books. Strips of paper become rivers and roads. You can pile some other books down as hills. You can scrunch up balls of paper just to use as trees and bushes. It's got all of these things that you can just make the way you made terrain when you were little kids, because that's what this is trying to evoke. It's a very simple game. They've broken it down and they've said we need a way for our soldiers to move and our soldiers to shoot. And so they've listed down some basic movement rates for soldiers. Short move, long move, maximum move, etc. And when you're making terrain, you just decide. This is boggy ground. People can only make a short move through boggy ground. This is brush. People can only make a partial move through brush. This is open. You can make a full move in the open. That's all you've decided. You can make a stick, which has those things pre-measured, or a piece of cardboard that you've pre-measured those onto, so no one has to bugger about with tape measures, because again, simplicity is king. It will need dice, and there's a little chart, and because of the American Civil War sort of setting, they've said, good, there are firearms, there are pistols, there are going to be carbines, there are going to be rifles. Because cowboy and Indian sets were obviously a part of this, obviously we're going to have bows and arrows, and maybe thrown spears as well. It gives them a range and a dice roll required to hit someone at that range. Rolling high, so if he's out in long range, you might need a 6 to hit. If he's up close, you might need a 4, 5 or a 6 to hit. There are some rules for cover. Cover will lower the chance of hitting, obviously, or if he's behind a hill or behind a house or something, he is immune. You just can't draw a line of sight to him, so you can't see him. Melee, what happens if guys end up snout to snout, you can then fight hand to hand. Both sides roll a dice, whoever gets the higher wins. But there's a little list of bonuses, which are pretty simple. So if a guy's on horseback fighting a guy on foot, there's a bonus to his dice. If you've got like a big long bayonet and the other guy's armed entirely with wet noodles, then you get a bonus. That kind of thing. So if you've got your cowboy and Indian set, and you've got a cool Indian who's got obviously a shield and a tomahawk, fine, he gets a bonus in hand-to-hand combat, because what have you. Little morale rules for sides when they lose some people. They get a roll and see if they run away. That's it. That's all that is in the core OMOG rules. With that, you're back to things where decades ago when you sat down with your little brother, took out your Airfix sets, and you just went pew 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 pew, played, ranging up and down the bed covers and all over the lounge room floor. Great. Entire war game right there. Nothing else seriously needed. There are rules in OMOG for firing cannon, which can fire, because obviously cannon came in these playsets, so you can fire like artillery shells, and they have a set range, and they put down a little circle, and anyone in that circle, you roll to hit them, and they've only got, I think, 4 shots of artillery rounds. They can also fire canister, which has a little, you make a little fan shape, and anyone in the fan shape, you roll to see if you hit them. But you've only got like a canister round, so there is artillery, but you have to be careful where and how you use it. It doesn't last forever. Great. Now, on this very simple framework, people have built artwork. Oh yes, they've built works of art, all for free or just work of love from people. So, there is a science fiction version where someone has just put in the extra things you might want if you're going to play with some of the cool little alien sets, or if you wanted to play with like some old Starguard figures or what have you. But obviously if you've got alien sets, you might want to bring in things like some monsters. So you might want to measure monsters by what kind of melee things they've got, or do they take over people's minds, or are they shooting laser beams or whatever? Are they armoured? Do they take multiple hits to take down? Obviously different ray guns, and they sort of said, alright, well we're going to choose basically small, medium and long, because we get different sorts on different figures. So obviously pistol style things, kind of shorter submachine gunny things, rifly things, and bigger lasery weapons that you might get. If you've got some kind of weird ass armoured vehicles, same thing, movement, and they might take a few hits to actually damage them so they break down, and an extra hit makes them blow up. Fantastic. Simple. Little rules there for if there's different atmospheres or alien growths, suggestions that there might be alien growths that snag you or slow you down, or I'm trying to eat you or whatever. Just the little rules you need to make that scenario. Then there is a very cool one, one dinosaur, one bite, for use with your plastic dinosaurs. Again, you're going to probably use some of the plastic palm trees that always came with those sets, but again, making terrain. But in this one you design your dinosaur. You have 10 points to design dinosaurs, and you split that between its attack and its defense and its movement and its intelligence. And its intelligence is how many of its own kind it can cooperate with, and how many of them in fact you get often on the board. But then you design your dinosaur or dinosaurs. You might be allowed to have a couple of different sorts, and then you get some, you might decide each side has a dozen dinosaurs, and off you play. So if you made velociraptors, you might have blown a bit of their points on intelligence. They can fight in a pack, so, and you probably got them fast, probably 0 defense, but they have a, virtually 0 defense, but good attack. But you're going to come down to basically fighting in a pack to take things down. And so anytime you move, because you've got a high intelligence, you can always move a group of them together and attack together. So these sorts of things. Plastic dinosaurs raging up and down the carpet. What could be more fun? I think their pièce de résistance actually comes from a slight elaboration of the basic rules, of which Mr. Snoots is very keen, called Knighty Fighty. Again, freely downloadable off their site. Knighty Fighty is for use with those really cool medieval miniatures that you used to get. There'd always be knights with shields and battle axes and flails and so on, and there'd be a couple on horseback. So, it elaborates on this a little bit more. You can take 3 different levels of this game, the sort of the Knight's game, the Baron's game, the King's game. There's a little map that comes with this. You lay out a structure on the floor or table wherever you're playing this, and in it there'll be different things depending on the level of complexity of this game. But these are essentially these are things that you're trying to gain control of. There's a castle, or there's the manor, there's a village, there's a bridge, etc. So you're aiming for control of these things. The larger scale games, which is the Baron and the King's games, have more objectives, and they have more obviously fought with a lot more troops. But they split things into, there are knights and there are men-at-arms, which are basically foot knights, because that's what used to come in the sets. So they've got rules obviously for guys riding on horseback, how much faster they go, and in that hand-to-hand combat, obviously guys on foot are disadvantaged against guys on horseback, and guys with lances charging obviously get a bonus when they come galloping in, but they can only do it in open terrain and only after they've done a full straight move onto someone. They can't swerve around and do that. Okay, fantastic. That's the basic knights game. But as you move to the higher levels, they bring in archers and crossbowmen who can shoot in the same manner that we've seen in One Man, One Gun. You roll a d6 to hit, given the range to terrain, and if hit, people fall over because your targets are largely all armoured the same. It's slightly easier to hit other archers and so on unless they're in cover, because knights are a bit tough like that. But at even later levels, they bring in things like siege machines, because that's another cool thing you could get in the play sets, mangonels and trebuchets and so on. So again, it lobbeth a giant rock, and which is a circle, much like the artillery in the other games. No canister, obviously, but it's also like it doesn't really move around. But so you have your artillery piece. They bring in some additional rules in these later ones. So if a character is hit by arrows or artillery while they are in any sort of cover, they're not dead. They fall over, and they can be recovered if you can get a healer onto them. I gather in many of these sets, particularly Robin Hood style ones, there'll be like a Friar Tuck, or sometimes there was even like nuns attached. I remember some of those cool sets. I used to get those. I travelled to England as a kid, and I'd come back with like a bag load of toy knights. But if you can move the healer figure onto them, you can bring them back. You have to roll and see if you can recover them, and they might be permanently out, or they might be able to spring back into action, or you might have to stay and roll again. Are you going to open fire on nuns and good friars who are trying to heal people? Well, I guess if you're bad guys you could, but that would be dastardly, and you should probably be penalised somehow for doing that. Snoots are not approved. But, so there's those rules as well. You have characters that are nominated as your Baron or as your King, and they get a bonus in combat. But if your King dies, you've lost that little war. It ups it to another level, because you would get these cool kind of castle playsets. So it does sieges in there. How to use the artillery to attack bits of walls, how the guys inside take cover, how they move around inside the fortress and so on, how to basically have your guys climb ladders or use a battering ram to get through the gates. Simple, simple, always kept simple. I need 4 guys, we pick up a battering ram, if we run it at the gates, we roll the dice on a 5 or 6, the gate breaks. Otherwise we can just keep going each turn. But if people are firing at us and we have less than this number of people, we have to drop the battering ram until we can get more people to pick the battering ram up, etc. We put a ladder. Each turn someone can climb up the ladder. Obviously someone can try shooting at them, but if they get up there, well, you just fight. The guys behind the walls, because they're falling down when hit and are in cover, obviously you've got like a healer running around madly inside the castle trying to heal everybody, but you can probably have a healer running madly around on the outside, because you've probably got archers trying to fire from cover down there, and well, you can bring them back. They bring in Robin Hood variants, because Robin Hood playsets were obviously such a cool thing. Here's the variant for Robin Hood where we have some people listed as sort of heroes who can fire better than normal people, and so it just brings in these little kind of rules. Simple, simple, simple every time. No rules that you couldn't explain to a 12-year-old and have them just immediately retain it. A fantasy thing, because of course when we got these sets there were also dragons in them and wolves in them and trolls and ogre things, and God help us, the famous pack of D&D monsters as used by Gygax & Co. to base the monster manual on. You can upend those out and have them as well. You can have fantasy groups. They've got sort of, here's guidelines for this is what a troll is. A troll's big, it can throw a rock, a bit like the artillery pieces. He takes multiple hits to hit because he's being done. This is a dragon. A dragon can shoot a few times in front of it with its fire breath. It takes this many hits to bring a dragon down. It can fly. It can move places. If you wanted to bring in, if you had play sets, I wish there were play sets that had pig-snouted orcs and things. Why doesn't anyone do that? You can bring in all these monsters. You just cook up some things for it. You can then, and here's the thing, you can play this. You can turn this into its own role-playing game. You can go straight back to where role-playing games start. You can have an umpire that is set up, a floor or a table, and you can't see anything on it. And you have a group of characters that you created, and that's it. Somewhere, someone's stolen the princess, you've got to get her back. Off you go, my fellow adventurers. Go in there and fight the Black Knight and his evil minions and make your way past the troll and slay the dragon and get her back. There it is. All done simply and beautifully and for free, and using those wonderful 54mm miniatures. I actually am quite keen to get some to do this with. We've played it here at my place using Lego minifigs. I don't have any of those old play sets, but there's a toy store near here where I bet I can get them. The moment I saw them, I was like, oh my god, I miss those things. Because, I lost all my possessions when my marriage failed years ago. This is a game you can play with your friends, and face it, with your kids. It requires minimal outlay. Some friends of mine, bless them, and I'm thinking of you with much love, they lost basically everything they own in some disasters over in the States. They are living in a tent right now. This is the game they play to keep their morale up, because they lost their miniatures, they lost everything. But they could get a couple of boxes of plastic miniatures and set up some terrain and just play a silly game together to keep their morale up. So this is something you can do with nothing. You can piece this together at a convention. You can piece this together after dinner. You can play it with your kids on the floor. You can play it with the most serious wargamers in the world, at a convention, because it's good fun. It uses, if you're going to go out and buy things, it's going to use all those kind of wonderful play sets. The night ones I love. So I do want to set up for Knighty Fighty and get some of those wonderful plastic castles and things again. Another one that we did here was we brought out action figures. We played it with He-Man. We brought out Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain, and we just gave bonuses to different guys and they could do things. This one can shoot from his eyes, this one can fire his thing, this one's got his entanglement. You can just ad-lib anything you want on this. So it sounds silly, but I think it's beautiful, and it's a celebration of our roots. This is kind of how most of us began our adventures in fantasy. It was playing with these toys, be they model knights, or be they American Civil War soldier sets, or plastic dinosaurs. OMOG is just a framework for the simplest possible game to create the most possible fun using the cheapest possible resources, and I love it. Bless it. How good to see it kind of just written out and encoded. So anyway, go and take a look for it. It is worthwhile. You can find it on Facebook. Just look up One Man, One Gun. That's the name of the page. Go into files, and there's the OMOG rules, but there's lots of people's different variations, from Viking to science fiction to dinosaurs. Knighty Fighty is really well worthwhile, and these will give you starting off points for your own adventures and your own thoughts as you find cool play sets out there. I think it'll give you a lot of ideas. OMOG, what a lovely idea. Alright, look after yourselves out there. Times are tough and dangerous. Don't take any crap from anyone. Be seen, be visible, be proud. Take care of yourselves. I hope we meet around a gaming table one day. Or maybe on a floor somewhere surrounded by cool plastic figures and a big plastic castle. Okay, bye everybody. You going to push the button? He's going to push the button.